So with the next gen consoles on the horizon, what better time would it be to compare them to a PC? Now, I did a video similar to this a month ago, and a lot of people liked it, and it was a lot of good feedback, so I thought that I could do a more in-depth version now, especially since the consoles are on the horizon. So I'm going to be doing that. It's going to be a longer video, about 15 to 20 minutes or so, and it's pretty much going to explain everything you need to know comparing these two kind of platforms for gaming and pretty much streaming and any other need in general. And this video is more dedicated to the people that are on the fence whether or not to get a PC or the next gen console. So if you guys are deciding, this is the video for you. And if you don't know me, hi, welcome to the channel. My name's Brio. I make videos talking about just gaming reviews, gaming news, and overall just gameplay and just funny moments in general. Pretty much anything related to gaming, this is the channel for it. If you guys want to help me out, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. We are on the road to 300 subscribers, and if you could hit that by the end of this year, that would be amazing. I also have timestamps, so if you want to skip to a certain section that you think is more important to you and might help you decide better, feel free to. But with that being said, sit back, relax, and let's get started with the video. Now, price is something that I think is very misunderstood amongst the console community and the PC community as well, but mostly the console community. And this stereotype mostly grew from the YouTubers and the Twitch streamers that spend thousands and thousands of dollars on their PC, on their gaming setup, and a lot of people think that if they want to have a gaming experience better than consoles, they need to be spending upwards of $2,000, $3,000 and beyond, and that's nothing but far from the truth. In reality, you can be spending as cheap as $500, even cheaper than a console, and still be getting a relatively good gaming experience. And I think a lot of people just don't understand that. And that's honestly one of the best things about PC is that you have so much customizability in terms of price range. You can be spending as low as $400 on a PC, and you could be spending as much as like $10,000. There's really no limit, and you can choose how expensive you want to be. Now, generally, the more money you put into a PC, the better overall it runs, the more things you can do with it, the better games and the better overall experience you're going to get. But nonetheless, you do not need to be spending more than $2,000 to have a good gaming experience, not even over $1,000. And one thing I like to compare PC and console to is actually a bike and a car. And this is why. So with a bike and a car, a bike is obviously cheaper and a car is obviously more expensive. But they technically both do the exact same thing. They get you from point A to B. But what does the car have that the bike doesn't? Now, obviously, what comes to most people's minds are that cars are faster. It will get you to point A to B quicker and more efficiently. And that in of its own is already a huge benefit. But also, cars have a lot of other features. For example, obviously it has more comfortable seatings. You can fit more people inside. There's radio. You can connect your phone, listen to music. And generally speaking, the more expensive your car is, the more features it has. And that's why I like to compare it to console and PC. On my PC, I'm not going to be just gaming. I'm going to be doing my homework. I'm going to be editing my videos. I'm going to be recording my videos. I'm going to be streaming. I might get into other things. I might be watching YouTube, Netflix, and all those things I can all do on one device. While on console, you can play games, and now you can watch also movies on Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, etc. But it doesn't have as much customizability and offers as a PC does. Now, I do recommend spending about at least $800 or so if you want a gaming experience better than consoles, because if you're going to be spending less than that, you're going to be getting around the same gameplay experience as the consoles. And we're talking purely about power, frames, and gameplay. We're not talking about customizability and just things you can do with it overall, because obviously, even though if you spend $700 on a PC that's just as good as consoles, you're still going to be getting, way more features. You can make videos, you can do your homework, you can do a bunch of things on there. But we're talking purely right now about performance. And right now, if you're going to be spending at least $800 or so, if you want a PC that's better than the next gen consoles, and I recommend spending at least $1,000 or so around there if you want a really good PC that's going to last you years and years to come, that's going to outperform these next gen consoles. highly recommend that, but you do not have to. If you're just completely fine with how the consoles run, then you can be spending $600 or even less if you want to be, on par with the current gen consoles. So that is what I think about when it comes to the price. Now the second category is building versus buying. Now this is a huge debate among PC gamers, and a lot of PC gamers, they look down on people that buy a pre-built or that buy a building service. And I'm going to tell you this: do not buy a pre-built. If you don't want to build your PC, you don't know how, you don't want to spend time and effort into learning how, then use a building service. The reason I'm not recommending a pre-built PC is because a lot of these places, Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, they have these crappy pre-built PCs that are like $1,000, $2,000, but like they're like the external Chinese, hardware that's in like 6 months, it's gonna not do well, and it's just not good. You're gonna be spending so much money that in like a couple of months, it's not gonna work anymore. It's not worth it. I really recommend you guys know what you're doing. And I think a lot of people, if you want to build your PC, you can do that. People think it's like some rocket science, that you need to be like a tech expert for multiple years to be able to even build a PC. No, all you got to do is have some sort of brain. You can look up on the internet. There's so many tutorials on YouTube and other websites telling you how to build a PC, and you can just follow through with it. And pretty much in like a couple of hours, you should be done with your first PC. It's not rocket science. Other than cable management, there's nothing more to it, not really, other than software updates. It is kind of a pain. It takes like, a couple hours on your first try. But again, other than that, that's pretty much it. And then you get the luxury of trying PC gaming. I highly recommend it. If you don't want to build it again, use a building websites. There's multiple. There's one example that I really, think you guys should try is NZXT Build, and it's not sponsored in any way. And pretty much what NZXT does is like, you pick the parts you want, and they'll build it for you for around $100. And not only do they build it for you, they also give you a 2-year warranty on all your parts. And I think that's a really good price, especially if you don't want to spend your time and effort on learning how to build a PC and just building one in general. But that's pretty much it when it comes to building versus buying. If you have the time and you want to put in the effort to learn how to build a PC, I recommend it. You'll learn how to build one. You'll get the experience. You'll save money. You'll learn a new skill. And also, when you go to upgrade it or just fix a part, you don't really have to pay any other dude to do it for you. You can do it yourself. So if you want to put time and effort, do that. If you don't, if you just want somebody else to do it for you, do a building service. Never buy a pre-built. Highly do not recommend it. If you want to do it, do it at your own cost, at your own risk. But that's going to be it when it comes to building versus buying. Now, the third feature is something that PC has and has had for a while that a lot of console players don't even know about, and that's keyboard and mouse versus controller, and the fact that PC can do both. Now, before I get into that, I just want to say that the feeling of keyboard and mouse, especially in first-person shooters, is superb to controller, and that's my opinion, but I think a lot of people agree with me as well, because in first-person shooters, it feels so much more delayed and slow on controller, and while on keyboard and mouse, it feels like you're actually controlling the person. Especially with mouse, you can control how fast your character looks, how slow he looks. You can flick super fast, you can look slower, and that's the thing that I think really separates from keyboard and mouse and controller. Is just the customizable options that you have on keyboard. Not to mention on keyboard you have again so many different binds that you can do, and it separates it. I think it really, especially in first person shooters, there's just a huge advantage to keyboard and mouse. But the thing is, a lot of people, especially like Call of Duty players, they like to use controller, and that is something you can easily do on PC. Most games have native support for most controllers out there. Like you can use a PS5 controller, PS4, the new Xbox controller, Xbox One controller. You can even use a PS3 and the Xbox 360 controller, and even the Nintendo Switch controller. You can pretty much use any controller out there and a bunch of third-party ones as well. And you have so much options with that. If you wanted to, you could play a Halo game with a PlayStation controller, or you could play like Horizon Zero Dawn with an Xbox controller. Like you could use a PS3 controller or an Xbox 360 controller. Like how cool is that? Like you can use pretty much any controller and you can play the way you want to play on PC. Now personally for me, I like to use keyboard and mouse for shooters, and then for other games, especially story-driven games, I like to use controller. And like especially driving, story mode games, controller. those are fine. And you can do that. You can do it whatever way you want. What if you want to switch it around? What if you like to play shooters with controller and you like to use keyboard and mouse for story-driven and driving games? Like, you can do that too. You can do whatever you want with a PC input-wise. And that is something that I think is really appealing to pretty much all gamers. Like, you can play any way you want. Now, the fourth thing is frames. And I think frames is something that a lot of PC players like to brag about, of how many frames they get. And not gonna lie, PCs generally get more frames than consoles. But the next-gen consoles are holding a big threat almost. Like, for $500, that's pretty appealing. 120 frames, 1080p, and 60 frames 4K for only $500. Again, like, that is really, really good offer. And I think a lot of people are kind of tempted. But at the same time, with console, like, you're not going to be getting more frames or higher resolutions like on PC. Like, on PC, if you want to run 4K at 140 frames, you can do that if you have a high enough graphics card. If you want to run 240 frames at 1440p, you can do that. If you can do higher frames at the same resolutions as on console. You don't have to limit yourself to either 60 4K or 120 1080. You don't have to limit yourself to that. And PCs in general get more frames. If you spend even like the same price as the next gen consoles, as if you lower down even like a little bit of settings, you're going to be getting 200 plus frames, especially esport titles like CSGO, Valorant, Rocket League, those types of games. It's in Rainbow Six Siege as well. Like, those types of games generally run really, really well. You could have like a $400 PC, still be getting 100 plus frames on those games at max settings, which is crazy to think about. And frames, honestly, is really appealing. Like, frames makes your game buttery smooth. It makes your game look good. It makes your game feel good, feel more responsive. It makes you play better. There's a lot of benefits to higher frames. And PC in general offers higher frames, right? And it's even now, with the next-gen consoles, there are still going to be some games that still run in 30 frames per second. And we're talking about 2020, the next time, like, the PS6 comes out or whatever, that's probably going to be, like, 2025. And they're still going to be running, like, 30 or so frames. Hopefully by then 60 frames become the standard, because 30 frames, especially on the next gen consoles, is just unbearable. Like, why do they still have that? That's kind of unbelievable, but gladly most games run at 60 frames. The only games that are going to be running 120 frames that we know of so far are like kind of esport titles on console, like Rocket League, Rainbow Six Siege, Fortnite, etc. But that's going to be it when it comes to frames. Now, the fifth thing is the price for games. And I think this is honestly a really big bargain, because PC, pretty much all games are cheaper than console. The only time you have to pay a full $60 on PC is when a AAA title just comes out. That's the only time. Everything else, you're usually going to be getting on sale for $40, $30, $20, $10, even $5 on Steam, Epic Games, and a lot of other third-party websites. Not to mention, PC has way more games because of that lower barrier of entry for game developers. With Sony and Microsoft, they have to analyze all their games. The game companies have to be somewhat reliable before they let their game onto their console. While on PC, it's a computer. Anybody can make a game and release it. Nobody's telling them if they can or cannot. And that's why there's more games, and there's a lot of, underrated games out there that we don't even know about that are on PC as well. And you can tell, PC has more games too. Like, they get the exclusives from both Xbox and PlayStation. Like, they're reaping the rewards right now from both sides, and they're not complaining, and they're probably getting it for cheaper as well. So highly recommend. Again, games are cheaper, not to mention you don't even have to pay for online. Like, it's kind of crazy that you're going to be paying $60 or on the next gen consoles $70 or $80 for a standard edition of a game, and then you still have to pay $60 a year just to unlock the part of the game, just because Sony wants you to. Like, imagine buying a game and then paying another $60 to get like access to the game when you already bought it. It's so stupid. It's honestly crazy that people still do this. And then they're like, oh yeah, well, PlayStation Plus and, Xbox Live, they offer like 2 free games every month or whatever. But like, be honest with yourself. Nobody's getting PlayStation Plus for the 2 free games every month. They're getting it for online. And the games in general are usually bad. Like, they rarely have good games on the PlayStation Plus monthly games. Like, usually they're either good games that are outdated, so they're like pretty soon going to be like canceled. Like NBA 2K20, they released that for PlayStation Plus when NBA 2K21 was literally around the corner, right? Most games are just either not good or old, and it's it's kind of sad. They're just putting it out there. If you're gonna go, if you're trying to get free games or whatever, just get the PS subscription that offers a bunch of different games, like 300, and adding more and more. Like one of them had like Spider-Man or something. So that, just get that. Don't get PS Plus for the games. Nobody does that. They do it for online, and paying $60 for online is stupid. On PC is completely free, and that's another thing. You're saving more money. People are complaining how PC is more expensive, whatever. But in the long run, new consoles coming out like every 4 or 5 years or so, and Sony's trying to make the time in between consoles shorter. So you're going to be getting a smaller generational leap in technology. Plus, you're going to be spending another $500 or so on this console. Plus, the games are probably going to even get more and more expensive. So that's just completely dumb. In the long run, you're going to be spending more money. And think about it this way. Even if it stays a console for 5 years, you're going to be spending $60 every year on PlayStation Plus. In the end, you're going to be spending an extra $300. So $300 plus the $500 that you got with the console, that's $800 already. And with that money, you could have gotten a pretty good PC. Not even mentioning the games you're going to be getting on the next-gen consoles that you could be saving on PC. So overall, PC is actually the better investment. And that's going to be it for the video, guys. We talked about many different topics, and hopefully I convinced you guys to switch to PC. I myself am going to be switching to PC very, very soon, hopefully by the end of this year. I've been saving for a while, and for you guys that don't have enough money, just save. We have, like, the PS4 is going to be getting, support for another 2 years or so. So just keep saving until the PS4 or until you have enough money, and you have, 2 years. That's plenty of time to save up for a good PC. Again, you do not need to be spending $2,000 or so. You can be spending as cheap as $600 and still get a good, pretty freaking good gaming rig. But that's going to be it, guys. So if you guys enjoyed it, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Again, we're on the road to 300, and hopefully we can hit that by the end of this year. But with that being said, have a great rest of your day wherever you guys are, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.